and welcome to a brand new episode of the Five Heart Podcast, brought to you by CornNation.com, part of the SB Nation Podcast Network. I'm your host, Greg Mahochko, joined, as always, by our founder, our fearless leader, our hero of heroes, John Dam Johnston. John, how are you?
I'm doing great, shit ass. How you doing?
Now that I know exactly how the show's going to go, I know what to expect.
It's going to be one of those.
And also with us, as always, is our other resident shit ass, apparently.
He's a commie shit ass.
And which means it's red. And all around swell guy, Todd Wolverton. Hello, Todd.
Hey, Greg. I'm curious. Are we recording the Five Heart Podcast Nebraska version or the Five Heart Podcast Pittsburgh Steeler version? I'm a little bit confused. I can talk Terry Bradshaw. I can talk John Stallworth. Jack
Lynn
Lambert,
Swan, Jack Lambert, Mean Joe Green.
Yeah, hell, I don't even know.
Franco Harris.
Yeah,
Rocky Blyer.
Yeah, those guys. Who the hell?
I have a lot of those jerseys.
Now?
Ben Roethlisberger.
Roethlisberger. Oh,
I'm gonna ask you kindly to retract that statement, John.
It's been the shit ass Roethlisberger
For at least one more game. No, nobody from behind the steel curtain. The SB Nation Steelers page knows who I am. But this is a Husker podcast. I'm just representing a team that knows how to win on occasion.
Knows how to back their way into the playoffs against the will of the universe.
They had to do their part. And that was first, they had to beat Baltimore, which they did. Actually, I think first Jacksonville beat Indianapolis. That was the first result that was in. And then Pittsburgh beat Baltimore. And then by the stroke of a Los Angeles Charger, I almost said San Diego, but Los Angeles Charger timeout in overtime, the Raiders kicked the field goal. I was watching that. I said, it would not surprise me that there was a little, hey, why don't we just settle this in the playoffs? All right, sounds good. We'll just go for the tie. Which brings me to ties are stupid. There shouldn't be ties. I would rather see a 9 overtime Illinois Penn State situation or a forever shootout like they have make a team earn it. No ties. Me and Ted Lasso, we agree. Ties are dumb. No draws, no ties.
I'll ride that train.
Thank you. It's
a tie in the Chargers Raiders game would have been the safest things to do for both teams. It would have been the best thing to do for both teams.
It's anti-American.
Yep. We're used to winning, John. We are winners, they're losers, damn it.
We're used to success. And if the Raiders would have gone and fumbled the ball or anything where they caused a turnover, and let's say they had a scoop and score, they would have been out of the playoffs. So actually, by not kneeling on the ball, that guy could have cost his team a playoff spot when the safest bet, the best thing he could have done was kneel and get the tie to go forward to be successful later.
Yeah. I'm a fan of a team that had a tie earlier this year. That 9-7-1 mark drives me bananas. No ties.
I'm kind of anal retentive, and I don't like to see that extra column when there's only two teams. That it doesn't fit in the newspaper. It looks dumb on television.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm with you there.
Wow, that statement right there is, you might as well just said blah 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 blah. I am old.
John, you're older than everybody here.
Oh, I'm not.
I mean, you kind of
I've been rejuvenated.
You're on. Oh, that's right. You're on your second life. You're only 6.
Yeah, exactly.
No, but why is at this point, obviously I've stated my piece. I'm anti-tie. But why can't you know how most rules trickle down, like there's the pro level has their rules, and then it's picked up by the collegiate level, and then those rules kind of picked up by high school, etc. NFL and college football are on two completely different, overtime sets of rules. It's mind-boggling. Give me a damn winner. Like I said, I would rather you line up on a 2-point conversion every time and earn it rather than somebody, well, here's your participation trophy. Everybody gets to go to the playoffs. No, winner, loser, so the Pittsburgh Steelers can go to the playoffs.
Wow. I wanted to see Justin Herbert get into the playoffs.
Well, he's got many years.
Could have if he would have won the damn game.
Yeah. I wouldn't have cared if the Charger would have won. I just wanted there to be a
Did you watch
clear-cut
this
winner.
game, Todd? Did you watch it?
As a matter of fact, I did.
The fourth downs they picked up, that was supposed to be ordained by God or something.
They were
And then
gifted.
Satanic people
It
like
was
you
rigged.
came in.
If I was the Los Angeles Chargers fan, I probably would have cried tears after, the way that game ended, but I'm not.
What do you usually cry?
Well, I
Like
cry
blood?
when I
You
watch.
bucket for Satan? Why?
I cry when I watch This Is Us. I watched
never-
that last night. And
I never watched that show. Is that a ladies' show? I feel like that's a ladies' show.
I think it probably is a ladies' show, but I got sucked into it.
Do you watch Grey's Anatomy too?
No,
Bold and the Beautiful?
no,
All My Children?
no.
Days of Our Lives?
Yellowstone, Big Sky.
Oh.
He
You like
sounds
those
like he's going
mountains,
to
huh?
start crying at any moment right now.
Big Sky.
Let's talk Nebraska football. That's why we're here. Todd.
Is this us, Todd?
I think that would have been a much better name for that. I've never watched that show, so I have zero frame of reference, but I feel like Is This Us ? Would have been a much better title for that show.
Yeah,
So.
you're probably right.
All right. Todd wants to stay on topic.
Stay on point. We got to stay on point, guys.
All right. Fewer sidebars, shenanigans. So buckle up. It's going to be a fun ride. We have some acquisitions via El Transfer Portal to Nebraska football. And I think the one that caught the most headlines is a quarterback from Texas by the name of Casey Thompson. Now, we're certainly going to talk up Casey Thompson's accolades and what we think he can bring to the offense. But I wanted to let you, the listeners, remind you that our very own Coordination's own Patrick Gerhardt had about a 15-minute conversation with someone from Burnt Orange Nation, which is our Texas Longhorn SB Nation site from down south, about Casey Thompson. So you can get more of an insider perspective on Mr. Thompson from that conversation, which is available now, coordination.com. And of course, wherever your favorite podcasts are, like the 5 Heart Podcast. So check that out. But Casey Thompson comes in. He, I guess, got the starting spot at Texas due to injury, but then he kept it after the other starter came back. So he's coming in with some Power 5 accomplishments or Power 5 experience.
I like it.
I don't know how I can make it more obvious that I'm
You're
opening up the
floundering
floor
and
to somebody
for someone to pick it up.
I'm sorry. I was looking at Twitter. I got distracted.
Twitter's not real, John. Get off Twitter.
I know it isn't. You had a perfect case to call me a shit ass, and you didn't.
I'm not a mean. I'm a mean person, but not to people I like. So,
Wow.
and I like Todd. I was just figuring that you were going to call Todd a shit ass.
I said I liked Casey Thompson as a quarterback.
I know.
What do you know about him? What do you know about him?
Well, what
You
I
don't know
about
Casey Thompson.
what I know about him is that he started at Texas. What I know about him is that I watched him play against Oklahoma, and he had a hell of a game against Oklahoma, even though they got beat. But while I like him as a quarterback, and I'm glad that Nebraska picked him up, I can't believe that 97%. You see, I'm a 3%er as a Nebraska fan. I'm a 3%er. I'm in the minority here. I can't believe that Nebraska fans aren't storming Memorial Stadium with pitchforks ready to get rid of Scott Frost, because Casey Thompson comes to the University of Nebraska, the son of Charles Thompson, who was a quarterback at Oklahoma. And why are we going to those Oklahoma people and bringing in Sooner blood? I mean, my God, the reason Scott Frost is around after 4 miserable years is because it's a flipping Nebraskan. And every year we have to fill coaching positions. Everybody says, well, we need to hire somebody that has Nebraska connections. We can't bring in any outside blood. What the hell is that? And so we bring in Casey Thompson. His dad is an Oklahoma Sooner. I can't stand that mentality. Okay, but I like him as a quarterback.
Where are you at right now? See, I feel like I should look up the phone number to the hotel just in case you collapse. Jesus,
he's gonna get like somebody knocking on the door and complaining about him. Jeez,
no shit.
All we know is that you're a Kearney.
I'm a Kearney.
Yeah.
Kearney.
Holiday Inn Express. That's why I'm an expert. I stayed at the Holiday Inn Express last night.
We brought him in to be his dad, Oklahoman, so he can pass down some of that Sooner magic.
There you go.
I do want to ask you this because you said, Casey Thompson played against Oklahoma and played well in a loss. Who played better in 2021 against Oklahoma? Casey Thompson or Adrian Martinez?
Ooh.
I was going to a wedding, the Oklahoma-Texas game, so I only got to see parts of that game.
Greg, I think I'd call that a tie.
Okay.
Yeah.
So basically what I'm hearing now is that we made a lateral move and nothing's going to change.
No, he's much more accurate.
He's a better passer than
you know what happened? You know what Casey Thompson did? He scored touchdowns.
Yeah.
That's good. We need more of those. It was funny because I understand that there is a certain segment of the fan base who thinks that the sun rises and sets with the people who are in the locker room at this very minute, doesn't care about transfer portal, doesn't care about improving the overall ability and winning chances of a team. And so I don't know who posed the question, so I apologize, but it came down to of these quarterbacks, who would you like to see in Lincoln next year? And it was Casey Thompson. It was the other one, the
Chubba Purdy.
Yeah, Bubba Dirty. And then somebody commented with a picture of Logan Smothers. I'm like, you didn't understand the question at all. we hoped, and there's going to be a quarterback competition this spring. What happens if Logan Smothers shines and Casey Thompson not so much?
And
Logan
starts. Is that the answer?
But it's going to come down to, so you get Logan Smothers, who may or may not have had any actual progress in the last couple of years. And I say that because of, hold on, John. Oh, never mind. He's just choking. It's okay. He's not reacting. But I say that because I think we can all agree that quarterback progression plateaued. So we get a new quarterback coach. We get a new kind of offensive unit coaching staff. We might see Logan Smothers shine.
No,
and we might see the same Logan Smothers. And I'm not trying to be negative on Logan Smothers. We all know certainly he's no Brody Belt. But
oh my God.
I can't. I'm sorry. I'll stop doing that. going by what you know now, before spring, who do you think starts in the fall?
Casey Thompson.
It would be Casey Thompson.
Casey Thompson.
Yeah.
Casey Thompson.
If Logan Smothers was going to be the starting quarterback in the fall, they would not have brought Casey Thompson in.
Right, but they're bringing him in.
Logan Smothers doesn't fit the profile for the kind of offense that they're going to try to run next year. I love Logan Smothers, and I would love to see him excel. I'd love to see him out on the field. But you don't bring in Casey Thompson if he's not going to be the starting quarterback.
That's what I'm thinking.
I disagree with that. You can't have enough quarterbacks.
Do you think there's going to be an honest to gosh quarterback competition this spring, John? I don't.
Yes.
I think for the same reasons that Todd just said, you don't go and bring in a replacement if you're perfectly happy with what you got there.
You don't know if the guy you got there isn't going to break his leg between now and August.
Well, that could happen.
You have to have, how many kickers do we have on the roster?
43. It's 1/3 of our roster.
How many quarterbacks do we have on the roster?
4.
6 now.
Oh, okay, fine.
5 or 6. Okay.
Right. How many of those can play?
1 at a time. Although I guess a couple years ago.
That wasn't even funny and I laughed. That's okay.
A couple years ago, though, we did see Luke McCaffrey and Adrian Martinez on the field at the same time. So I it's situational.
But you have Logan.
Let's put all of our quarterbacks on the field at one time.
You have Logan Smothers, Heinrich Harburg, Richard Torres coming in.
Matt and Mitch Masker, Mark Marchford, Mark
Merker. Right. But I would be of the opinion, if I was doing this, that we could still bring in Chubba Purdy. And I think that's a pretty valid thing to do.
I don't think that that's a bad idea either. It just depends, now with Oklahoma making him an offer, what's going to look good to Chubba Purdy. And, it would be nice to bring a guy like Chubba Purdy in, because then I think we truly do have a quarterback competition following, the era of Casey Thompson.
I still think Casey Thompson starts because he has experience. But, maybe Heinrich Harburg will suddenly.
I'll tell you what, I think there's something to say about Heinrich Harburg from, again, I saw him play, at 10 plays maybe in the spring game. It's hard to say, but he's got the body type that apparently they're trying to recruit now. And he's got from what people say, he's got an incredibly strong arm. So maybe he is in fact the quarterback of the future. Richard Torres, he's a big, tall kid too. So Logan Smothers might be the odd guy out, simply because he doesn't fit the profile for the kind of quarterback that.
What we have that we didn't have before? We have options.
I know. I was going to say options.
We have options. That's what we have, Todd. I like options.
It's a nice feeling. Todd, what would you do with?
He must have worn himself out, because I figured he was going to respond with something. He's just sitting there like some goober.
Todd, speaking of
goober
options,
shit ass.
Yes.
Let's put this in. This is going to sound horrible, and I apologize, kind of. But let's put this in terms that you can understand about options. You have Snickers, Milky Way, and Butterfinger. Which one you going with there, bud? You get options. It's the same thing. Now
I'm
you got
going
options.
Snickers. I'm going Snickers, but boy, I'll tell you what, it might be tough to keep my hands off that Butterfinger.
Is that your pet name for your wife?
No, that's my. No, I'm not. No,
Yeah, let's go there. Come on, Todd.
No.
I'm so sorry.
We'd have to find a new host when he went home. He'd be dead. Okay, okay, Casey Thompson, what else we got going?
Well, we picked up a couple of other, SEC players, it sounds like. Running back DeAndre Robinson from Texas A&M. I don't even know if the guy played, but he sounds like he's, stat-wise, profile-wise, sounds like he's a thumper. And then Trey Palmer from LSU, who's a wide receiver and a return specialist. He ran back a touchdown on a kickoff last year and ran back one on a punt, which wouldn't that be nice, to see wearing Husker red, somebody that can do that. So, the Mickey Joseph influence, is having an impact with, bringing that recruit on. And I think the fact that we have him, we're going to see more and more players, that he makes connections with. So, it's just like with free agency in the coaching market, apparently, as well as free agency in the players market anymore. Lincoln Riley, it's surprising to me that they just haven't put a bus outside the locker room at OU and loaded it up with guys to go out to USC. That's where Caleb Williams, I'll bet, ends up. So, it'll be interesting to see what happens.
So we got a new quarterback, we got a new receiver, we got a new running back.
Yep. Kind of like the Holy Trinity, huh?
So regarding DeAndre Jackson, courtesy of our excellent contributor, Jill Heemster there at Corn Nation, from her article about his announcement. He was a 3-star recruit who redshirted for the Aggies in 2020, played in 4 games in 2021. 4 years to play, but has used his red shirt.
So it's like we got a freshman running back.
Yeah. 5'11", 215 from Stone Mountain, Georgia.
Another Georgia running back.
He's got a good frame.
Yeah, I think so. And it also adds, let's look at where the running back room sits now. You've got Jackson, Ramir Johnson, Gabe Irvin, and thank you. So there's, and again, 4, I think.
Brody Bell.
Fuck you.
Oh, he's there. I mean, what?
Isn't he a receiver?
He's everything, Greg. He can play any position.
He was our leading rusher towards the end of the season. He's probably solidified his place in the running back room.
I hate you guys. Hey, I don't know. He jack of all trades, Brody Belt. Let's never forget him. We'll line him up at Wildcat and go to just run roughshod. Watch out, Big Ten. I know I'm missing some people, and so I apologize to those. But those are the names that we know who have played in a college football game. And again, probably missing some. It's what I do. I like the variety. Yes, sir.
Marquise Step is who you're missing.
Thank you so much. Because Morrison.
Cooper Jewett, I think, saw the field maybe for 1 or 2 plays, but he was a walk-on from Omaha. But that's about it. I mean, there's some other guys. Yeah, I'm looking at the roster.
Well, I appreciate
Emmett Johnson will come in from Minneapolis this coming season. I mean, we have a crap ton of running backs.
But we always do.
We have options. I'm going
Maybe
to that.
We should run those options.
Oh God!
Can we run it out? You know what? We saw this a lot in the Bo Pelini era. I think the Tim Beck version of the Bo Pelini offense, when we had a lot of options in the running back room. I would love to see more diamond formation.
Well, it'll be interesting when the spring game rolls around to see what Mark Whipple's going to put together. Because I think that I think we have a good set of offensive players. We just really, we have skill position players all over the place. I think we have put it this way. We have good enough skill position players to compete well in the Big Ten West. And that's really what we need to do. What we have to figure out is what the hell we're going on with the offensive line.
Well, let me just follow with what Greg said there too. I think one of the things that has impressed me with Scott Frost has been the creative the creative ways that he has put the option on the field, from different sets, and in different ways, now many times he's using a wideout as the pitch man. But I think, with Mark Whipple, even with his offense and that type of thing, we've said it before, Scott Frost is going to have influence in the offense. So I would be surprised if we don't continue to see some kind of option football.
Todd, are you feeling okay? I bend over. I need to check your temperature.
Wait a minute. This ain't that kind of show.
I promise, folks, there's nothing but water in my cup, but it's been a day and a half. And I'm feeling I got a little chip on my shoulder. So if I'm extra antagonistic, I apologize. Kind of. It's just the way it's been. So I don't know where I was going with that.
I don't either. I was just trying to not say really nasty things. Oh, anyway. Hey, wow.
Why would that stop you, John?
Because they were really, really nasty. And I try to have some semblance of decency, shit asses. Anyway, then we got a new coach. What do you think? We have a whole off season to live
like
through.
Show and tell.
It's a tape dispenser.
First grade Mrs. Allen's room. Here's Greg. What did you bring to show and tell today? I brought this official Pittsburgh Steeler helmet.
Oh, wait a minute. Business card holder.
Holy shit, dude.
Okay. Yes. Bill Bush has been officially designated special teams coordinator.
What do you think of that, Todd?
I like it. I guess, there is that, part of the fan base that says, well, if he's so dang good, why did we play special teams so bad this year? Well, he was a defensive analyst. And, I'm not so stupid to think that he wasn't at least, in on some conversations about special teams, but that wasn't his role. And, he's proven himself as a special teams coach. But I think the other thing that he brings to the table is he's a hell of a recruiter. And, at least when he's out there coaching, we do have somebody whose primary responsibility is special teams. And, I know that there are some people, one of our coaches even said, maybe it was one of our coaches, somebody said that the problem with our special teams, wasn't the scheme, it was our specialists. Well,
it's that, what that sounds like? That sounds like I don't want the blame.
Well, yeah,
you know what? If Connor Culp has problems or anxiety or any kind of problems with his mentality when he goes to kick the ball, who's supposed to help straighten him out?
Well, the coach is.
Well, yeah. Maybe a head coach could come up to him and calm him. Maybe a head coach could come up to him and say, hey, it's okay, man. We're going to get this
Maybe
done.
The head coach could stop the press conference midstream and say something along the line about what this young man has contributed to the program and how sometimes you have these kinds of days and nobody should pile on him because they got beat. Maybe
that was a really nice
coach. Maybe there's a head coach that's done something like that before.
There was a really nice moment by Nick Saban.
Yes.
Why? we're and again, I'm from a different generation. I'm a little old school, which is funny with you old farts.
I was going to say, Greg,
but do we? I don't disagree with what you're saying, Todd. But these are young men, but they're men. They're not kids. Can we say, you know what, he's done a lot for the program, but how much hand holding do we have to do?
Well, okay. I don't disagree with what you're saying, Greg, but there was a period of time, and I don't have this much in-depth knowledge, but I'm sure the football program has sports psychologists. I'm sure they do.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Jack Stark used to be the guy. And I mean, you think of all of the accolades that Tom Osborne gave, to the impact that he made.
And to your point, Jack Stark, our friends at the Big Red Cobcast, who are, they don't record anymore, but I believe all of their archives are still in place. They have talked with Jack Stark. So I encourage anybody to go out and look for that episode. I don't, because I'm a bad fan, I guess. I watch the game, then I go on with my day, and I don't sit there and I don't watch all the post-game press conferences. So everything I hear is kind of, like secondhand. It's hearsay. It's bitching about what was or was not said or how something was said in the press conference. But these conversations if I was a player, I've got to really stretch my imagination for that. I think I would be more okay with my coach, being a little more like, I don't know, tough love or whatever, however you want to put it in public. But, pull me aside and be like, hey, man, just so you know, we know you're giving it your all out there. We're like, why do we care? Why do we care about press conferences? Why?
Because it has such an impact on the attitudes and perceptions of the fan base. There have been times on here, Greg, that John has said that the last thing Scott Frost, should do is talk on a microphone. Why can't he? He needs to delegate that out to, maybe. I do know that Jen Psaki is not planning to be the White House spokesperson for the entire administration of Joe Biden. She's made it clear that she's only going to stick around for a couple of years. She'll be on the free agency market. Maybe Nebraska could hire Jen Psaki, and she can come and be the official spokesperson for Nebraska football.
John, can you remove Todd from this conversation?
I think the problem is when you say this is a specialist problem, you just painted everybody with the same fucking brush. You know what I mean?
And that's true. And that's what bothers me about that. And you know what, Greg, I'll bet you Scott Frost had a lot of fathers, and I know it sounds like a jerk statement, but I'm sure that he did put his arm around Connor Culp. I'm sure that he did chew Connor Culp's butt. I'm sure that he did whatever he could to try to help Connor Culp be successful. I'll bet he did. But, some of the things that are said publicly when, it doesn't help matters. From my perspective, hindsight's 2020. Maybe Connor Culp should have been put on the bench a couple of games sooner than what he actually was. Maybe something else should have happened to help that young man cope with it. He wasn't missing extra points because of physical problems. He was missing them because of the mental problems. I watched 60 Minutes on Sunday night where they interviewed all these kickers. And, that Morton Anderson, one of the greatest kickers of all time, was asked how much of kicking field goals is physical and how much of it is mental. And Morton Anderson said 90% of it is mental and the other 10% is mental.
Yeah. Isn't Morton Anderson the guy that didn't miss a field goal all year and then missed that NFC title game for the Vikings? Wasn't that Anderson? It was Morton Anderson. He's got a special place of Vikings fans' hearts.
But, here's the deal. We've got new place kickers, new punter, new return specialist. Hopefully the long snapper's coming back.
We got a new long snappers too.
Okay. What else do you need?
We got a coach.
We got a coach. We got a wide receiver coach that said every wide receiver will play on special teams. I think we have a defensive back coach that says every defensive back will play on special teams. Okay. So make it work.
Do you think that's going to happen, Todd?
Yeah.
My God, that was a long pause.
Here's the thing. You know, I just don't. In my former profession, there was a saying: what gets monitored gets done. What has value gets attention.
So everybody's watching out for special teams, and this year will become Iowa. Terrible.
I understand what you're saying. I do. And I'm fine with, what is it? 120 guys on the roster and 80 of them being on special teams. Even better if they're all on special teams at the same time.
I was going to say that would fill a lot of lanes. 180 guys, 120 guys going down.
But again, I'm not. Look, I know I come across as a Scott Frost apologist. I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's okay.
Thank you, John. I appreciate that. I know Todd disagrees with me very vehemently.
I have moved to the middle.
You're Switzerland.
Switzerland.
Oh, no, I didn't say neutral. I said middle.
He's an independent.
I am. Look, the biggest problem Nebraska football had is our offense. If you lay this out, everybody wants to blame special teams. But if our offense was able to score in the red zone last year,
it negates all the missed field goal opportunities.
We wouldn't have all these discussions about Connor Culp.
He'd probably still be on the team.
So what do you do when you have a problem? You fix it. And let's be honest. Right now, we looked at what's happened is this. Scott Frost looked at himself and said, maybe I'm not I need to stay out of the offense. Hired offensive coordinator, hired a new wide receivers coach. We're going to get a running back coach. He's replaced all of his offensive staff. So maybe he is fixing this. I guess I don't really have a choice in the matter. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. We have a new quarterback who can score touchdowns in the red zone, which is something our other quarterback couldn't do. And that was play calling or because he couldn't complete passes. Even though he had a really giant tight end that's going to play in the NFL, he could have thrown the ball to. We have a new guy that's coming in as a receiver to join a receiving room that's pretty talented by itself. And he can also return punts and kicks. We got a new running back. We got shit for a recruiting class, but apparently our transfer portal class is pretty highly ranked. So
we got two other really good wide receivers.
I'm not neutral. I'm just going to be in the middle.
And
which means I'm going to be a double spy.
For the second time tonight, Greg, hold on here. I think I think the majority of moves that Scott Frost has made since the end of the season have been good moves.
Who are you? You're being so kind all of a sudden. What have you been replaced by an alien? Are you a pod person right now?
Call it as I see it. I still think he's a shitty head coach, but I think that what he's done so far, maybe he'll change my mind next year.
So what you're telling me is that in the 6 weeks since the end of Nebraska's football season, hard to believe it's been that long. I know that a shitty head coach, your words, not mine, has at least done enough to make you smile a little bit by wait. Don't interrupt me, asshole. By removing some of the glad-handing yes men and bringing in people who actually know what they're doing?
I think he's brought in some good coaches, and I think he's brought in some good transfers. And I think that will position the offense to perform better. hopefully they get that running back coach set in place so that Mark Whipple can work with the entire offensive staff and they can develop the cohesion that they need to have so that when they go into spring practice, they've got a plan, they can teach the offense to the players, and that when the fall rolls around, they hit the ground running with whatever the new offense is going to be.
I'm glad you mentioned so far the lack of running back coach. Friend of the show, Josh, if he's listening, asked me a question I don't have an answer for. He said, how do they bring in a running back without a running back coach unless they know who that running back coach is going to be? I mean, I feel like there has to be, like, hey, we've got it down to, we know who it's going to be. We just can't announce it because they're still coaching. We know who it's going to be. We can't announce it because the terms aren't finished yet. But when you're talking with DeAndre Jackson, like, this is going to be your unit coach, your position coach. You have to know that, right, before you sign somebody, or am I off base?
No,
and if I'm off base,
we had to wait till Georgia was finished.
I don't know. I think kids choose places to go for all sorts of different reasons. I mean, if he looked at what Mark Whipple is doing and somebody said, if you were that kid, that young man, what would you ask about where you were going to go? I mean, the question you have to ask is, how am I going to fit into this offense? Mm-hmm. It's not necessarily, am I going to start? I mean, if you're just kind of a jerk,
get an opportunity,
right? How would I fit into this offense? And then if they describe it to you, you kind of go, oh, well, maybe that sounds pretty good.
Well,
it sounds a lot better than these guys over here.
And now that George is nearly finished, I think that they'll name the coach.
I mean, I'm fairly certain that the game's over, right? They won, so they should be finished.
No, you got to have the Republican primary, and then Herschel Walker's going to come and be the coach.
You don't have to explain that reference. God. Okay.
You're real proud of yourself.
Do we have any
as
other
much
topics?
Speculation as everybody else is making?
Do we have any other topics?
We could talk about men's basketball. They played a close one against Illinois, and Illinois is a top 25 team. They were, correct me if I'm wrong, John, you probably have more knowledge on this than Todd. Todd doesn't understand basketball. He's a wrestling head. They were up by 2 or down by 2 at halftime. I think they were up by 2.
At 34-31, they were up.
Okay, so up by 3. I'm sorry. Yeah. I didn't know the exact score. End up losing by 10, but perhaps one of their better showings, again, against a top 25 team. And then they're going to get a much needed boost in the form of Trey McGowan when they take on Purdue next, which I don't know when that game is going to be. It might have already been by the time. Okay, so this episode will be heard before that, so I'm not out of date.
I think the thing is when you look at this basketball team, the way they played recently is that they can play with anybody in the Big Ten, because we
weren't saying that a week or two ago.
They took Ohio State to overtime, and they could have won that were not for 2 free throws. They played Illinois, a team that is just a nightmare, because that frickin' Kofi Cockburn, you son of a bitch. I can't stand that guy. I really can't. I don't know.
Tell me about him. Tell me about that.
He is a giant fucking monster human being. And you know what? Derek Walker, our big guy, our only good big guy. I think Eduardo Andre is coming along, but he's got a ways to go. But Derek Walker has played way better than I think anybody could have imagined. And I think he played Kofi Cockburn. Otherwise, you got to pronounce his name Cockburn, and that just sounds.
That doesn't sound
painful.
Good.
No. Yeah. Anyway, Cockburn is. He's probably going to. Was he Big Ten Player of the Year last year? He's up there. He's probably going to be the other Player of the Year this year.
The other kid that Illinois had, other young man Illinois had who went to the NBA. I think he was the Big Ten Player of the Year. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but he was a kid who late in the season had a broken nose or something like that, had to wear the protective mask. So
I think they've shown they can play. They just got to get rid of dumb possessions. And, they at the end of the game, the end of the Illinois game, they kind of just faded. So it's like they're playing 38 minutes and not, the full game.
Where does that blowout against Rutgers fit in?
Yeah, that happens. That just happens in basketball. It does. Okay. You know what I was looking at earlier when I said I was on Twitter? Arkansas was leading Missouri 49-15 at half. So those kinds of games just happen, and Rutgers is not a bad team. No. And if you're playing on the road in the Big Ten, anything can happen. You also look at, what Nebraska was doing. They played 2 road games before that. Then they had to go back home and then they had to go fly to Rutgers. Is that right? Yeah. So the turnaround there is kind of
tough.
The key to the Big Ten for us, for Nebraska, is finishing at 500. It really is.
Nebraska needs to find a win.
Yeah, they do. They
to
really
prove
do.
To the players on the team that they can compete in the Big Ten.
Yeah.
They need to find
the problem with the fading at the end of the games is the lack of experience.
Leadership.
Yeah, it's a leadership thing on the floor. You can just tell. Yeah, they got out against Illinois and they were up, 16-4. They had a big lead early. And then Illinois went on some monster 27-2 run. And then Nebraska actually tied it and led at half. So, they've kind of figured out, okay, we can do some of this stuff, but it's the end of the game where they need somebody that's going to go, okay, here's what's going to happen now.
Somebody that wants the ball. And somebody that has, the ability to step their game up when the team needs them the most. And somebody's going to have to emerge in that role.
Coburn was out of the game at the end of the game, and Payne came in, and Illinois just stepped up their game, and they have players and they have experience, and there you go. So I guess I have more hope for Fred Hoiberg than a lot of people do. And that's probably a good thing, since apparently we've now heard that he had a silent extension given to him. I don't know how. Yeah. I want you, both of you, to explain this to me. We have an athletic department that's more leaky than Louisiana. Oh, God damn it. The ship that got torpedoed in 1915, she sunk in 18 minutes. Lusitania. God, sometimes
John, how did you forget that? You were on
I didn't forget it. It was in there. It wouldn't come out. This happens sometimes.
It's the hypothermia in the rowboat.
Yeah. But, we have that leaky an athletic department, and apparently nobody knew about this extension for an $18 million buyout until just recently. What the fuck is going on in our athletic department?
Why I get the feeling that there were 2 people, maybe 3. You probably have to run it past an accountant or something like that, something. But I have a feeling that this was something that was kept not necessarily secret, but it was one of those, like, Bill Moose knew and Fred Hoiberg knew, and whoever had to, notarize it knew. I don't think this was, and I think it was. I love the Huskers. I think it comes across exactly as shady as it sounds, because at that point, depending on what part of 2020 it was in, Fred Hoiberg had coached a year. That was it. His first season was 2019-2020. It started off, of course, with the bonding trip to Italy. Or Europe or wherever, they chronicled that on the Big Ten Network, which was fun to watch. And it ended with the last basketball game of the Big Ten tournament that Nebraska lost to Indiana, and then the world shut down. And somewhere in there, amidst the pandemic of everything going on, Bill Moose is breaking necks and writing checks.
Well, you think about this for a minute. He apparently gave Scott Frost a contract that had no performance whatever in it. And then he gave Hoiberg.
What else would you do for the favorite native son, John? Jeez. He's Scott fucking Frost.
I liked Bill Moose, but I'm glad he's gone. Because if he'd have stayed around a few more years, we would have had an absolute fucking disaster of an athletic department.
Well, we heard we heard rumors that there were all sorts of financial concerns when he was at Oregon.
I want to run this scenario past you guys. If you put performance requirements, standards, whatever in Frost's contract that he, at least 4 years in has not met, and you have to let him go, who the hell are you going to get?
We already did this.
No. I know,
any coach. Your mom.
My mom's not going to do it. All right, she's not interested.
They gave $18 million to your mom.
Okay, she'll but she's going to try to work remotely. But who are you going? I mean, you kind of hit the nail on the head, John. You're going to have to back up a dump truck, and not one of like the small dump trucks that are used in like municipalities. But I'm talking one of those big ass quarry dump trucks full of cash and dump it on somebody's lawn. Quit shaking your head, Todd. You know it's true, because there is a stigma at Nebraska. You know what? We brought it. Not we as in like the fan base, but after Coach Osborne left, he had appointed his successor, Frank Solich, right, wrong, or indifferent, and administration let him go after a 9-win, 10-win season. Then we brought in Bill Callahan. Clearly didn't work out. It was a clash of cultures, and he was let go. And Tom Osborne brought in Bo Pelini. Now, Bo Pelini had success. He had a ceiling, but he had success and a bad attitude. And he was kicked, sent packing by the administration. And then they went the complete opposite of Bo Pelini, hired Mr. Rogers himself. And it has been, and I'm not saying like we wouldn't have sunk down under Bo Pelini, but under Mike Riley, buddy, we weren't doing real well. And Bill Moose came in and brought Scott Frost, and you can shake your head, you can say, oh, but you're gonna have to pay somebody, because there's a lot of baggage that comes with being the head coach, because there's the standard, there's the, I don't know, no, not the standard, there's the expectation, there's the fantasy world that Husker fans, I'm guilty, living. I'm starting to drink the Kool-Aid. You all got me talking. Casey Thompson. We got Mark Whipple. We actually got a special teams coordinator. We got a defense that didn't have many changes on the coaching staff. Buddy, that Kool-Aid started pretty good. We do this.
Coach at North Dakota State.
The coach in North Dakota State.
Yeah.
I mean,
championships.
He's won national and I'm not minimizing. I'm not minimizing his accomplishments.
But
different.
No, my point is that you don't. How's Texas feeling about backing that quarry-sized dump truck up with Sarkisian and Tom Herman before him? Didn't work out so well. Who was Bob Devaney before they hired him?
But you can't make comparisons from 2022 to 1950, whatever.
Why not? Who is the next generation of coaches?
Matt Campbell. Wait a minute. All I wanted to point out is that, Bill Moose gave Fred Hoiberg $18 million buyout. That's a fucking shit ton of, I don't care if you're God for a Nebraska basketball program and you get fired, it should be worth about $5.
It's ridiculous.
We're terrible.
It's ridiculous. You
got to wonder what else he was managing that poorly.
Apparently the entire athletic department. How can he manage it when he's on a damn horse out in Montana?
And do you think that in the next, now that this is public, and again, now that the product is not, showing itself, Trev's going to have to come in and try to rework that, right? I mean, he did something similar for Scott, or to Scott, I guess, probably more accurately phrased back months ago during the football season. So that's after the season. You think that number's got to come down? It's at least cut in half, in my opinion.
Well, Fred Hoiberg's got something that Scott Frost doesn't, and that's a lot of, how do you pronounce the word, cachet? Fred Hoiberg doesn't need Nebraska's job.
Well, that is
Fred
true.
Hoiberg can go into the front office and damn near any NBA team and get paid very, very well, if that's what he wants to do. Fred Hoiberg wants to coach basketball, and so he's here coaching basketball.
Okay, here's another thing that was just announced tonight.
I real quick before you do that, John, I do want to follow up to Todd's statement there. Todd, in your opinion, we all know that you hate Scott Frost. You think he's a piece of bad
head coach.
You think he's a piece of shit head coach and a piece of shit human being. We get it.
No, I said he's a shitty head coach. I did not say he's a piece of shit. I did not say he's a piece of shit human being. Don't put words in my mouth.
I know. I'm sorry. I couldn't.
I'm judging the act, not the person.
I know.
Wow.
I know. And
I think he's kind of shady myself, but whatever.
My question is, do you feel that the longer Scott Frost is at Nebraska, the farther his stock falls?
Not if he wins.
Well, no shit.
But here's the deal, Greg. I think Scott Frost can have a winning football team next year. I think it's possible.
Yeah, I think you're like me.
It was possible with his former coaching staff. But
I feel like,
let's see what happens. I'm not drinking the Kool-Aid.
Yeah. I feel like you and I agree on one thing at times, and I'd say the majority of the time, the person standing in Scott Frost's success more often than not is Scott Frost.
Yes.
See, we can get along. We
had a long conversation one night about all those little things, the intangibles and that kind of stuff that have not been infused in this program. That's why I'm kind of excited about having Mark Whipple come, because I hope that he's got that veteran experience where, there is a degree of accountability. That's the thing that makes me feel the most positive about some of the changes that are happening.
Mm-hmm.
And,
right,
and
John, I apologize.
We'll go spend a week with Nick Saban over the summer and learn about putting accountability into your program. Maybe that'll happen.
John, I apologize because I interrupted you earlier. You were going to say something, and I'd really like to hear it. I'm sorry.
From the Omaha paper, as of tonight, report Trev Alberts considering change in Nebraska's multimedia rights management. If you guys remember, here's the lead to this story. Less than a year after former Nebraska athletic director Bill Moos took the school's multimedia rights operation in-house, new AD Trev Alberts will consider dismantling it and having an outside media organization handle the operation. This exactly says to me that Bill Moos I don't know what he was doing, but there's only one reason why Trev Alberts would do this. And the reason why Trev Alberts would do this is because they got a bad deal in doing this before, and it cost them a bunch of money. And here it is. And you walked away from a $13 million contract from Learfield, which is Learfield IMG. I think that our athletic department under Bill Moos was a fucked up mess, and Trev Alberts actually was hired to clean it all up. And he wasn't really hired to just come in and fire Scott Frost like a lot of people think he was, but he does have a lot of cleanup to do.
We touched on this briefly before we started rolling sound, and the consensus, I feel like, between the three of us, and I may be wrong, I don't ever want to try to speak for anybody, including Todd, although sometimes it's fun to get his get his blood pressure going up a little bit. We were talking about, one of the things that became apparent to Scott Frost and then the world after that first season, he didn't know how big of a hole he had to dig the program out of. And like, he didn't know how bare the cupboards were, etc. It can be said, I think, similarly, that we had no idea the overall health of the athletic department in general under Bill Moose. And we're starting to find, we talked about the secret contract extension and buyout increase for Hoiberg, this situation here. There's a chance that Trev didn't know what he was stepping into either. And now he's just trying to, put it all back together before he has to cut wrestling.
What else are we going to find out?
He's going to have to cut wrestling. No, I'm kidding.
God. There will be things burning if that happens.
Oh, for sure. What else are we going to find out? What else don't we know? I don't know, because we don't know yet, John. It's pretty common sense. Easy to see that one.
Wow, where else could this hit?
I'll tell you what.
Now.
I want, as long as baseball and volleyball remain untarnished by the overall stink, I'm pretty happy. But we have to remember, Will Bolt was hired by Bill Moose, so who knows?
Okay, can we take a step back here just a second?
Uh-oh.
So, how a contract extension with Hoiberg that wasn't made public, a bad decision on how to handle media rights, that doesn't reek of scandal.
I'm not talking about scandal. I'm talking about not being good at managing
ineptitude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Being lousy.
Just messy.
Being lousy at handling your money.
And what, 29 million shortfall this football season? Is that?
That's what we were told.
That's what we were told.
Okay. If now I want you to think about that a minute. What did they say that 29 million came from? That came from not having butts in the seats, right?
How can you have a 29 million loss when you've sold every game out if it's butts in the seats?
No, 2020. Because they didn't have fans.
Sure. Okay. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. So somewhere in here, are we missing that because of that? Or are we missing that because of this whole Learfield IMG media rights stuff got all fucked up and we're not getting the money back from that? Or is that on top of the $29 million deficit? And then that's the problem is that is this going to continue to be, a problem? Are we going to hear in about 3-4 weeks or a month or 6 months? Oh shit. Well, the athletic department's down another $20 million because of bad decision-making over here and bad decision-making over here. I don't think we're going to hurt so much that, people with money aren't going to bail them out of something. I mean, they're building a palace anyway, but it still points to, you really need to have your shit together. Does any of this affect the football program's performance? I am of the opinion that when you have an organization that runs well, everything inside that organization runs well. And when you have dysfunctional organizations, it's like having things inside the organizations just don't move well, and they do affect other operations. You know what I mean? So did Bill Moose signing a silent extension with Hoiberg affect anything else in the department? You know what? I'm not going to say it's directly led to losses, but at the same time, it's probably leading to other people not doing their jobs very well.
Well, it could lead to some probably far-fetched.
You managed an entire high school full of people.
Huh?
You managed an entire high school full of people for years. Okay, what happens when Bobby Sue is not doing worth the shit and Jimmy Bob is working his ass off? Yeah. Does Jimmy Bob look over there and get affected by that?
Yeah, that was what I was trying to say. It could impact, the relationships with other coaches. It could really, it could have that kind of an impact on the department. And, that sucks. I mean, the whole thing sucks. That the department, which it hasn't been that long ago that people held the University of Nebraska's athletic department up there in the top 5 athletic departments in the country.
Right.
Mentioned in the same breath with Ohio State, Texas, and that isn't just how much money or what their budget is, it's how they function.
It's going to be an interesting offseason for more ways than we're just looking at Scott Frost over and over and over.
Yeah. The off the field storylines will be I think not exciting in like but as interesting as the on the field. What's going to happen? What's the depth chart going to be going to look like? Is it going to be one half of the conversation is like, what's the budget? That type of thing. So
I'll point out one other thing. We're still waiting on we waited forever for Bill Bush to be officially announced. We didn't hear about the offensive coordinator for quite a while. We're still waiting on a running backs coach. Do you remember when Trev Alberts was hired? But they had to do the press conference immediately because it was leaked anyway. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So because Trev Alberts came into the department, have we found our leakers and squished them? Those shit asses. I mean, I find that personally upsetting that people leak shit to the media before. Mm-hmm. You can't have a proper announcement. You can't have a department that does its job. That looks like maybe that's ended to a certain extent. So is that a sign that Trev Alberts is cleaning up the athletic department? Or am I just like confirmation bias reading shit into shit?
John, I like where your head's at. I definitely hope, like you, I don't like things to be spoiled. I want there to be official words and not speculation, not rumor and innuendo.
Yeah. I got into a Twitter fight with a wrestling Twitter guy about releasing decisions that athletes were making before the athlete had a chance, or the department. And I was actually surprised. It was interesting that I had some supporters. I was actually surprised how many people took the other side, but.
Wow.
Yeah.
Let's just shit on the young people.
Yeah. That's a story for another day.
Yeah.
The Trev Alberts has got a big job and Scott Frost has got a big job. And, I'm going to enjoy the rest of the wrestling season. I'm going to enjoy the baseball season. And I am not so that John is more comfortable in the middle. I am not going to mention starting February 1. I will go a month without mentioning Scott Frost. I will not talk about Scott Frost. I will not mention his name in vain. I'm going to quit drinking alcohol in February too. So,
wow,
28 days.
No big challenge. They're picking the shortest month.
We expect you to keep a journal.
No alcohol, no Scott Frost.
Todd, can I join you on that no alcohol?
Sure.
Sure. I'll be a real joy to fucking live with. Let me tell you.
And you're right. It is the shortest month. I want to see if I can make that.
I did give up alcohol earlier this year from the end of May to the end of August. And which was tough because that's grilling season, and what I like to do is I like to sit outside while I'm grilling and have a beer or two or
6.
We'll stop counting. It was never, but I told myself, you're fat. You don't need beer because that's what I drink is beer. And and then I lost 14 pounds in June, and then I found them all. So.
Okay, I'm bringing up the Trev Alberts thing for a very specific reason.
Yeah, because I'm concerned about that, because you told us before we started recording, under no circumstances are we supposed to even breathe a hint of a note about this. So when you went,
then I saw the Omaha paper. It's put something out about
that makes it okay.
Oh,
well, that
okay.
makes it much more high profile. Whereas the Sports Business Journal, I mean, who fucking reads that?
You did, apparently.
Nobody. I do look at the Sports Business Journal, but I'm bringing this up about Trev Alberts for a very specific reason. And that's because there is a video of me on YouTube ripping that whole decision apart and hating the idea that we hired Trev Alberts in the first place. And I'm not going to go back 100% and say I was wrong, but I am going to say it's probably maybe like 88.5.
You were 88.5% wrong, or you're still holding on
pretty,
to
I just hold on a little bit so I can maybe eke back to like 83.
I wasn't a fan of the hire either. And I'm never going to be a Trev Alberts fan. Never.
Well, because we know why.
It's nice to know that he seems to be competent in the job he was hired to do. For good old
we'll
Nebraska.
We'll see what happens with Trev Alberts going forward.
Can I ask you a question?
You both got what?
No, this is a serious question. This is Husker related. It's one of Todd's favorite topics to talk about as far as wrestling. Do you foresee, be it for the purposes of Title IX or otherwise, do you foresee Nebraska adding women's wrestling?
Wow, that's out of the blue.
No, I'm thinking about the Trev Alberts situation. What happened at UNO? And I'm like, well, I don't think we're really. I mean, we could add hockey because you can always have men's and women's hockey. And I would love Husker hockey, but women's wrestling, you have the facilities. I feel like I feel like, and this is what chaps my ass looking back now about my high school. My high school didn't have football at the time I was there. They don't have wrestling still, but it's not Nebraska. Like, wrestling is not a big thing in Illinois in smaller communities, or at least in my area. But I feel like, and Todd, you would, I think, probably know more of this from the administrative side, but I feel like wrestling is one of the lower budget sports programs to offer. So I feel like there's low risk, high reward in something like that. And we've talked about women's wrestling here before. So I'm just curious your take.
Yeah, we'll do it. Yes. I'm going to do this first. I take this first.
You go ahead.
Motherfucker.
And I'll follow up with the facts.
That's true. I'll say this. Nebraska is going to do women's wrestling because Nebraska is a very progressive state when it comes to women. And the reason for that is because Nebraska women are tough as fucking nails and they're mean as hell. And that is not an insult that is a statement of pride. You know, I married a Nebraska girl and she could beat the shit out of 85% of the men I've ever met in my life. And I think that Nebraska, knowing that, it would be something like volleyball. I mean, when you look at volleyball in the state of Nebraska, volleyball has progressed as a sport throughout this nation because of this tiny, itty bitty, lowly populated state in the middle of the entire country. And the coaches we produced and the people that we produced to make that sport what it is. So if we want to do the same thing with wrestling, the opportunity's there. And I think that, Nebraska has just a attitude about itself that we don't talk about a lot. And that's this. Settling this state was so fucking difficult when we first started that there wasn't any of this gender shit going on. Everybody that had to be on a farm had to contribute. There wasn't any of this, the women are weak stuff. The women were tough as fuck. The men had to be tough as fuck. And they all had to work together to make it a state. And I think that same thing still exists in the core of Nebraska's heart. And that's why we're going to add wrestling. What about your facts, Todd?
The first domino fell back in the fall. And that's when the University of Iowa announced that they were going to add women's wrestling. And the University of Iowa was the first of the power conference schools to add women's wrestling. There has been women's wrestling at the collegiate level for 10 years, and it's grown very, very fast. But it, outside of just a couple of small Division I programs that don't have men's wrestling, everything has been at the Division II, Division III, and the NAIA levels. But when Iowa announced that they were going to add women's wrestling, and I think it's 23, 24, might be 22, 23, and they hired a coach by the name of Clarissa Chung, who's an Olympic, I believe, gold medalist, to be their head coach. That's the first domino that had to fall. Now, there hasn't been another Division I power conference school announced that it's going to go forward with it, but there will be. Nebraska officially sanctioned girls wrestling at the high school level for this season. So the base is being built. So does Nebraska add it? Yes. And because women in Nebraska are tough as fuck.
Clarissa Kyoko Mai-Ling Chun.
Yeah.
Is the head coach of the Hawkeye women's wrestling program, the USA Wrestling Assistant National Coach, and an American Olympic women's freestyle 48 kilogram wrestler, which is not even a thing. Come on. I highly recommend this YouTube channel. It's called The Fat Electrician. It's a guy who goes on, he talks all about like U.S. military history, different, combat units, different ships and jets and things like that. He doesn't operate in the metric system because metric's for losers. Metric didn't put anybody on the moon. So we operate in freedom units. So whatever 48 kilograms is translated into freedom units. And Chun is the first female wrestler from Hawaii to win a medal at the Olympics. So, and she's over a foot shorter than I am.
I have a question for Todd.
Yeah.
If Trev Alberts adds women's wrestling at Nebraska, will you learn to love him?
No.
God.
But I would rock. If he adds women's wrestling, I will walk across the street and pee on him if he's on fire. So
nice.
I guess
I
that's an
wouldn't
upgrade.
do that otherwise. I wouldn't do that otherwise, but I will make that gesture.
Would you not do it otherwise
nothing,
because you didn't particularly have to urinate at that moment? You didn't have to relieve yourself?
There's, in all sincerity,
Sorry, guys.
There is nothing that Trev Alberts can do. Nothing that I will forgive him for what he did while he was at UNO. Nothing. And I will never like Trev Alberts. But as I have said, I hope that he is an outstanding athletic director for the University of Nebraska. You don't have to like people to respect people. You don't have to like people to cheer.
Sounds like Coach Herman Boone.
What the hell are you? What? That does not fit into the world today, Todd.
No, it's bullshit.
Now, Todd, for clarification, maybe we have first time listeners. University of Nebraska Omaha, the Mavericks, won the wrestling national championship
out in Kearney, where I am at this moment. And I drove past the arena earlier today that they won that national championship.
Right out.
And
there,
Trev Alberts called Mike Denny, the head coach, within hours of them winning it after they were having their during their big celebration of winning a national championship at the Division II level, and told him they were cutting the wrestling program.
So for clarification's sake, and I understand, it could have been handled a million times better. Are you upset that he cut the program for budgetary purposes? Nothing personal. Are you upset the timing of it all, or is it both?
You've missed I am upset because of the reason. I'm upset that he cut it because he was threatened by Mike Denny and Mike Denny's influence in the Omaha community. It wasn't a budgetary cut.
Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't know.
The wrestling program.
You opened this wound, man. What are you doing? The wrestling
program fundraised the vast majority of the money that they used for that department.
Of course. Yes. I'm
sorry. It'd be very simple for me to just think, I used to like Trev Alberts. I used to cheer for Trev Alberts. Trev Alberts was that guy that grew up in Cedar Falls, Iowa. And me being an Iowa guy, I always cheered for Trev Alberts. I liked him. But he let his ego and self-esteem dictate a decision that was detrimental to the best program that University of Nebraska at Omaha ever had. A dynasty. And he cut it.
I want you to call me if you're going to just go murder somebody or smash up your hotel room. Not necessarily that I'll stop you, but I'll get you to put it on your phone and record it while you're doing it, because, that's what we do now.
I have let go of more emotion tonight. I'm exhausted.
Is there anything else you want to get off your chest, Todd? It does not include politics.
No.
Okay, good. I better do that really quick.
Unless we want to start the
no. Okay.
My dad's taking me fishing, John.
Oh God,
that'd be fun.
No, maybe he'll.
A good time will be had by all, I'm sure. Well, I don't know how to get the hell out of this episode now.
Yeah, I don't think. Yeah, you went down this. You walked down to the basement where all the bodies were and just started looking around with a flashlight.
I was curious. I had questions. Guys,
you better know the answers before you ask the question.
No. That takes the fun away. One of the most important questions we can ask is why.
Yep.
It's okay, how do you do something? I want motivate. I want to know what motivates people. It's how I tick. It's sometimes how I talk.
I saw what you did there.
Thank you. But knowing people's motivation, like, God dang, if I knew how people arrived at certain decisions or emotional, anchor points, then, now I know to never, ever, ever mention Trev Alberts or UNO ever again on the show.
No, you can mention Trev Alberts because he's doing a good job.
No.
He's doing a good job.
It's only a matter of time until he cuts Nebraska wrestling, and then
you might have to pick me up at jail.
Let's get out of here.
Yeah, you get a segue out of that. Thanks. Yeah, good job there, guy in the basement. How do you get out of the basement?
This is how I do it. Goodbye, everybody.
It's a cliffhanger.
All right. Well, we did a little counseling tonight. This week, we did a little therapy. We'll get to some resolution. We'll get to. We won't ever get to forgiveness. We've been assured of that. We won't ever get to forgetfulness. I don't know. But Todd is starting to. He's making strides, and he's really growing and healing as a person, and that's really all we can ask for. We're all here for Todd. We're here for John.
I learned about being today, and I learned about being your true self. I learned about that today. So I am working very hard so that people see and so that I express my authentic self.
I see what's in your hand.
My whole life.
Todd, I know what's in your hand. Okay, that's not what I thought it was. I thought it was like a little Bud Light plastic, like 6-ounce, 8-ounce plastic cup for keg purposes, and which would make sense because you said you were going to be partying, and when we decided we were recording at X amount of time, you said, "I know I need to stop partying by then." So
There's bourbon,
holy
isn't
shit.
there?
There was coffee. Oh my God, Greg, we need to wrap this up.
I know. I've been
I'm
trying
writing
to.
this down though. Next week. What was that? You said you're learning how to what, Todd?
I was learning about being, and I was learning about how to understand and how to express my authentic self.
I shouldn't laugh at that. I'm very proud of you.
Well, I'd like to hear more about this next week because I've struggled with this my entire life.
Well, I'm going to
go now.
I'm going to breathe a little exit into this show. So I'm going to speak my authentic self, which is getting the hell away. So for, as always, Todd, our founder and fearless leader, John Dam Johnston, I'm Greg Mahochko. We thank you for listening to this episode. We apologize to all of you for this episode. Episode that I had appropriately titled it Options when we were talking about football, and now I think I'm going to call it Options, except Trev Alberts. I won't do that.
You could call it Options and the Authentic Self.
Options and the Authentic Self.
Mm-hmm.
That should be Todd's autobiography. So
we'll work more on it during the off season.
That's right. We got a lot of time, boy, howdy. So that'll be it for this episode.
If you want to increase listenership, we are not going to dissect Todd Wolverton.
Well, we'll increase a different type of listenership. Hello, ladies. Let's get the hell out of here, dear God. I got another show to record.
Really?
Yeah, I'm double dipping tonight. So we're here, as always, the 5 Heart Podcast, reminding you this week and every week, oh, dear God, that 5 Heart is all the heart you need. John?
Go Big Red.
We're not sending anything to Todd this time. Good night, everybody.
Jerome Bettis.
Hall of Famer.